My name is Sol Esquivel, and I will be presenting my lesson with the instructional procedure. The lesson I have chosen to implement my instructional procedure is Lesson Plan 2. For Lesson Plan 2, I created a vocabulary lesson in which students learn new vocabulary about plants and learn the definition to each word. The first strategy or practice that I used in my lesson plan was a graphic organizer. The graphic organizer I planned to use is a diagram of a flower or a plant. On the diagram, I planned to label each part of the flower using a vocabulary word and write the definition underneath each word. Students will also have their own diagram in front of them, in which they will also label the parts of the flower using a vocabulary word and write each definition underneath. The graphic organizer was my way of introducing the new vocabulary words and definitions. My second strategy or practice is creating a flower, labeling each part using a vocabulary word. This would be an engaging, fun art activity in which students are referring back to the graphic organizer and remembering the words they've learned. Another strategy I would use to help students learn their new vocabulary is reading books about plants. This is where I will implement my instructional procedure called Sketch to Sketch. Lastly, I plan to dissect a flower and have students label each part. The activity would help students connect their vocabulary words with real life, and it was also a way to go over vocabulary words and their definitions. The instructional procedure I have chosen to present is called Sketch to Sketch. It is a tool for helping students deepen their comprehension of stories they've read. It could be used after reading a story or a chapter. Students sketch a picture or a diagram that represents what the story or chapter meant to them. Students will not be sketching their favorite part of the story or their favorite character, but they will sketch what they understood and symbols that represent what the story meant to them. Sketch to Sketch is a great tool to measure comprehension, especially for EL students. It is also an engaging method. Before having students sketch on their own, it is important to introduce Sketch to Sketch first. Sketch to Sketch supports the lesson I have created by helping students not only comprehend the reading, but comprehend the vocabulary. It will also help students practice using the new vocabulary, describe vocabulary through drawing, and define the vocabulary we've learned. For this lesson, students will be reading an informational text. The sketch they will be creating will most likely be diagrams that represent the pages read and discussed. The book I've chosen for this lesson and example is called What Are Flowers by Kelly Macaulay. The book I am using is off a website called Get Epic. On this website, students can read several books and listen to books. I use this website with the students I currently work with. If I were using this website to read this book, I would most likely be displaying it on a smartboard. My first step is to introduce Sketch to Sketch to my students. First, I will read the first 2 pages of the book. The book is split up into topics. The first topic is about plant parts, which you can see in the image on the right corner. The first 2 pages read, Plant parts. Plants have different parts. Roots, stems, leaves, and flowers are all parts of plants. Each part has a job to do to help the plant stay alive and grow. A flower's job is to make seeds. Seeds grow into new plants. After the whole class has heard the first 2 pages, students will discuss amongst each other what they recall from the pages we have read. Once students have discussed the details they remember from the pages, The whole class will share which detail they remember. I will take note of each detail shared. The details I expect my students to remember are: seeds grow into new plants, a flower's job is to make seeds, roots, stems, and flowers are all parts of plants, and each part has a job. I will take note of all the details they share or all the information they've recalled from the 2 pages and write them on the board. Before having students create their own sketch, I will demonstrate a sketch and what I expect. After demonstrating my sketch, students will have the opportunity to create their own and share it with their classmates. To give an example of a sketch, I will use the detail sorry. Seeds grow into new plants. Sorry for the delay. So the sketches do not need to be perfect. They're quick. I would probably give my students a limited time. But when I am introducing sketch to sketch, I will show them how I would draw my sketch and how I expect them to draw their sketch and on what time and what it should be like. So the detail that I recall from the 2 pages is seeds grow into new plants. So my drawing would probably be of a flower. So there's my flower and here are all the seeds. And then I won't forget the stem. So I'd probably draw a seed. Here's a seed that's going to fall. And it's going to go down into the dirt, which will be a new plant. And I'm just going to draw, I'm not going to draw a grown flower, but I'll just leave it as that, as a closed flower. Okay, so then that shouldn't have taken more than 2 to 3 minutes. So my students will see the sketch and I will explain the detail I recall from the 2 pages. And after answering questions, I will allow my students to start their sketch, to refer to the notes I have taken on the board, and to choose a detail if that would make it easier for them. After introducing sketch to my students, I will now guide my students through the procedure. I will again read another part of the book, have students discuss what they've learned in the sections read, and also discuss what sketch they think they will draw. To help my EL students or any students with special needs, I will bring the class to a whole group discussion again. I will take notes of the details they recall and write them on the board or display them somewhere in front of the classroom. After discussing as a whole classroom, I will give my students 2 to 3 minutes to create a sketch of a detail they remember. Afterwards, students will share with their neighbor. Not all sketches have to be the same. Some students will draw the detail they remember, which may be different from their neighbor. To demonstrate the procedure in my lesson plan, I have shown 2 pages on the slide about moving pollen. The pages read, moving pollen. Birds and insects can move pollen to other flowers. The pollen sticks to their bodies when they land on a flower. The pollen rubs onto other flowers as the bird or insect moves from plant to plant. Bees help move pollen from flower to flower. Pollen sticks easily to their fuzzy bodies. I have created a miniature worksheet I would pass out to each student. Students will write the title of the pages we read. In this case, it would be Moving Pollen. Students will also write the page number of the pages we've read. In the round box figure, students will create their sketch, and underneath the sketch, students will write a sentence that briefly describes the sketch. EL students may have difficulty writing a sentence of their sketch. To help the EL students write a sentence, I will allow them to copy the details I have noted on the board. They may also copy the detail from the book. So if they remember which detail they have chosen from the book, they can just copy that sentence on the line. I am expecting students to participate in discussion. The students' involvement will include listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Not only will students be discussing what they recall from the story, they will also be sharing their sketches and the sentences that describe their sketch.